Hey everyone, I got a real basic, what I consider as a basic repair here. Extension cord, some bad ends. This one's already been cut off. I stripped it, got it ready. This one here has our ground broke off, so we don't want to use that without that. And I went and picked up a couple ends, $5 each, something like that. Depends on how much you want to spend. You can get them cheaper and you can get them a lot more expensive. And then we need wire strippers, screwdriver. So this is a pretty basic thing around the house you might need to do sometime. So I'll just kind of go through it. I strip off about an inch or so, depends on how much room you have in here. For this one, for instance, I already have done the screws. You got that much room. So if you loosen those up and then you slide that apart, you can stick these through here. And then you can kind of judge about how long you need those wires, because you're going to make sure that you have this clamped on this part. You don't want it clamped on just the strands, so it'll clamp about right here. So you need to make sure that these fit the connectors, and when you slide it back in here, that you can get that all in there without those wires shorting out, of course, and then tighten the screws. So I stripped this end already, and I put it about a 1/2 inch on the ends. And what I'm going to try to do is stick these wires in here and kind of curl them around the back. And you want to stick them in on the left hand side of the screw, because when you tighten the screw, it's going to want to take the wire with it once it starts to get snug, and it's going to want to bring it around the screw to suck it in there. If you put it in the other side, the right side, and you go to tighten the screw, you're going to notice that you have your wire in there and it's going to start wanting to push the wire out. It's just the way it happens. So to make sure you're wiring it right, you have a silver screw, a green screw, and a brass screw. Your silver screw is your neutral, which is your white wire. Your green, of course, is your green, your ground, and your brass is your hot. Your black wire will go on there. So like I said, you can start with any one. I'm just going to twist the ends like this to make them real nice, tight, and then I'm just going to kind of curl it a little bit and get my silver screw and stick it in the area, and then kind of hook it around the screw so you can see the insulation goes right up to the metal part. And then we'll go ahead and tighten that down. So right here where it's starting to get snug, that's where it's going to start pulling that wire in instead of pushing it out on the other side. So that's why you want to do it like that. And then we'll do the same with the rest. We'll have our black on this side and our green up on top. Hopefully these all go in easy. Curve that a little bit. Just wiggle it in there around the back of the screw a little bit. And then tighten it on down. Now this is something you might only do once or twice in your life maybe, but depends on, I guess, what you use your extension cords for and how many times they get caught or accidents happen. All right, let me get the green in there. So we got them all in there. Bring our other end back up here. Always make sure you put that on first, or you're gonna have to undo all these. And now these have a little notch right here, you can see, and that has to match up with the notch right there. So this way it goes in all the way. Pull your screws out a little bit because they will get in the way if you don't. And that's in the notch. So now you can turn the screw backwards first, and you might be able to feel it drop down in, and then you can turn it forward. This way you know you're not going to strip the threads. I didn't put that one in all the way, but I'm just doing this temporary here. All right. Now the reason why the wires go in a certain area, you'll notice on this side, this one is a longer slot than this one. This one's the neutral. Your neutral wire is always the longer slotted wire. So just keep that in mind. And now we can see that our orange is right in, still in our clamp area. So we're good to just hold this in there. I just pushed a little pressure on it, and that's it, just to keep it in there. And I'm gonna hold that, and then I'm gonna tighten this down without clamping my fingers in there. And you can pretty much go as tight as you want, tight as you can, because it's just gonna squeeze that wire together. You don't wanna, you know, it has stops here, okay, so it's only gonna let you go so far. If you squeeze this down to nothing, you're probably gonna short the wires together, but these have stops built into it, so it grabs it nice and tight, and it won't hurt the wire at all. So there's our first end. That's how easy that is. All right, now we got our other side. We're gonna need to cut this off, and I wanna point this out before we get started on that this plug-in, both of these are the same size. So if you look at this, this is gonna plug in to this, and you can see this one on this side goes in the slot that is longer, which is the neutral. So that means this one is neutral. Make sure you pay attention to that on the inside, and this one should be the silver screw. All right, show that again. This is the way it's going to plug in. This one should be the silver screw, and if we look, it is the silver screw, and that is our brass screw. That's our hot. All right, so now all we got to do is just cut this end off here. Any old place is good. Out with the old, in with the new. Now this is where you want to try to be careful. The appropriate wire cutters for this would be the best way to go, but I got these and that's what I'm going to use. But I'm not going to squeeze this all the way to cut all the way through this orange, because if I do, that means I'm cutting into the wires too. You can see the green one showing through. I don't want to cut through the green wire with these because they're not the right tool to use for that. But if you're really careful, you can do it without cutting it. And if you're really talented, you could just use a knife too, but yeah, I would just use the proper tool. This way you're guaranteed not to cut the wires. And I'm not even crimping it when I do that. I'm just using the sharp edge just to push down on that orange, just to cut it a little bit more to let me get it out. There, I accidentally cut too deep. You can see the black wire has a little cut in it. We don't want that. So we're gonna start over. Let's cut this over. That's what will happen, and that's what you have to be careful about. Because if all of them get cut like that, then that's a chance of it being shorted. That's why the proper tool is always best. Oh, I did it again. Look at that. I'm gonna cut this tag off here because it's getting too close. That's the important tag. Shouldn't take that off, but it's in my way. Okay, I'm gonna be a lot more careful this time. Come on, you bend it like that and it rips the plastic. I'm gonna get my little cutters in there. There we go. And you can always check your wires afterwards to make sure that you didn't cut into any of those. All right, and then now we're gonna cut it down, cut these down, and this is 16 gauge wire. And if you look on here, it'll be written right on there what gauge wire it is. Right here it says 16 AWG. That means this wire is 16 gauge. So if you look at your cutter, you'll see a 16 mark there, and that's where you put that in there. And then you squeeze it and gently pull it off, and there you go. Does it nice and easy. Now again, we don't want to forget to put this on there. So let's put this on there first. Loosen this up just a hair. There we go. And now we're just going to do the same thing with these. Loosen up all of our screws. Oh, there we go. And we start with any one. Let's start with the black this time. And that's going to be on our brass screw. And remember, put it in the left side. And then we tighten it up. All right. Now our green one. Make sure you don't have no strands hanging out from each wire as you do this, because if it reaches over and it touches the metal on another one contact, you're going to see fireworks and you'll blow the breaker probably. You should, but you don't want to see sparks. You want to do it the right way. And like always, if you choose to do this yourself, you are at your own risk. I am just showing you how I do it, and it's an easy way for me to do it, so hopefully it is for you. All right, so we have those all in there. Just like I said, look extra careful, make sure you don't have a strand of wire coming out trying to reach the other one. And if you're okay with that, then again we have our little notch right here up on top that has to line up with our notch on the other side right there. So let our screws come through back this way because it'll be easier to stick this in there. Just like that. And then again, turn it backwards and you might feel a little click, maybe not, but this way you know you're not gonna strip out the plastic. If you have it lined up right, it'll go in, which it should line up because you're following that notch. It's gonna make me mess around with it a little bit more. The screws are not going exactly in the hole, so that's why. There we go. I seen that this part went in just a little bit farther, so there's a little offset there, but so now we should be good. So if I turn it backwards and then forwards, look at that, it goes right in. Turn it backwards a notch when you feel it, if you do, and then you can turn it forward and you know you're not going to strip out the screw. All right, those are done, and our orange of our cord is in between those clamps really good, so we can go ahead and tighten these down one side a little at a time, one side and then go to the other side, because if you don't, you'll end up it'll get stuck and you won't be, if you do this one all the way in, you're gonna have a hard time getting this one in, or you'll strip the plastic. So screw them in a little bit at a time each way, each one, until it's tight. And again, it's clamped real nice. And look at that. And these would go together if you tie it up and want to hang it up somewhere. But all right, that is your basic extension cord end replacement. I hope it works out for you as easy as it worked out for me this time. And we will see you in the next one.